Welcome to another episode of the PromoMinds podcast interview series. I'm your host, Steve Leslie, and today I have a great guest for you all. I've been really looking forward to sitting down with this guy. We've chatted a bunch in the last few months, and he's got a lot of cool things going on. He's the voice of the Canadian podcast where inspiration and growth intersect. Zach brings on extraordinary guests and with diverse backgrounds, and they share their lessons and just have a good conversation. He's also behind the, or large part in the MenTELL Health, which has gained a lot of momentum. It's got the eyes like ex-NHL players, George Saint Pierre, a lot of big names there. It's doing a lot of great stuff, and it's all reflected in the MenTELL Health program. You can find more at MenTELL.ca. And he's also a digital marketer, loves his dog, loves Terry Fox, and he has an amazing story to share. So I'm excited to bring him on. Please welcome Zach.
Hey, Steve. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be a lot of fun. I've been really looking forward to this.
Same here. It's been much anticipated.
Absolutely. So Zach, could you please share a little bit about your background with the audience and just kind of let them know who you are?
Absolutely. So my name is Zach. I live in Calgary, Alberta, born in Tanzania, East Africa, came to Canada at 4 months old, give or take. And, Canada's been home. And I'm just a guy that, realized through the ups and downs of life that there are great people out there. And you can find them if you open the doors and keep knocking and look around you, because you're not alone in the things you oftentimes think you are.
That's awesome. I didn't know you were from Tanzania.
Yeah, Dar es Salaam, yes, East
Wow.
Africa. Yeah.
What transpired for the movement to Calgary?
Yeah, so just like many immigrants coming to Canada for a better life, a better opportunity. And Dad had gone to high school in Quebec. Mom had moved here. They met, and then they, I guess, had gone back home for a little bit. Came back, and there's Zach, and started a life here in Calgary. And it's been home, and it's been a great place to grow up in.
That's amazing.
We got the prairies, we got the mountains. Everything's great.
Yeah, I have not been out west in Canada yet.
Oh, no way.
I was supposed to go in 2020 until the world shut down, but definitely going to get out there soon.
Awesome.
How did you first get started in your entrepreneurial journey?
I think for me, it's been embedded. It's watching mom and dad in real estate go at it. Also, just growing up, mom, when I was younger, was a seamstress and dad was a waiter. And then he was also in real estate as a realtor starting off and as a waiter part time. And they had a little seamstress business in downtown Calgary. Obviously, I was at a young age, but you realize the work ethic, what it takes, work-life balance. Sometimes, it's not there, but there's a window there of seeing it firsthand in action. You can read about these things about entrepreneurship, but witnessing it, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
My parents weren't entrepreneurial, but just kind of as you grow up, you start getting around people like that, and it's amazing the kind of influences that people can have on you, and just kind of lead you down a path of entrepreneurship, or wherever you find your joy, right?
And the thing here is, we see entrepreneurship on Instagram and social media. It's not all bling bling and champagne and private jets and bottles like that. It's hard work. It's sacrifice uh, for one day, hoping for a better prosperity or food on the table or something that you want to achieve. a vision, taking something from zero and creating something. I think that's a beautiful process. It on its own, that journey is beautiful. The destination, great. That's the end result. But if you love what you do and are okay with the crappier times, I think there's a lot in there to learn.
Absolutely. Growing up, did you have any little businesses that you started as a kid, or like a lemonade stand, or doing a paper route, or something like that? Or were you did you get
Yeah,
pulled into it later in life?
I think at a younger age, I would help my mom and with more administrative work at home, and kind of like my first jobs in that field and learning how to cold call. I had a high pitched voice back then, but someone was saying, "Oh, there's a lady on the phone," but it was me. But uh, but you grow up around that and you learn how to deal with people from all realms of life. And I think that was a great learning lesson for me. And then, of course, then you go into other jobs like clothing stores, retail, superstore for a little bit. You do all these little things to grasp and become who you are today. And I thank all of them. Let's say that.
Absolutely. Every part of life that happens is a learning lesson.
Oh, totally,
And
man.
yeah, I think you've kind of grasped that. If you listen to his podcast, the Canadian podcast, and you listen to some of the conversations that this man's had, it's incredible. Just reflecting on all these different adventures that
Mhm.
everybody has, and it really is a thing of beauty. I was curious to know what like where that spark for giving back to the community and kind of uniting community um, comes from.
Mhm. I think for myself, it's just curiosity. And there are moments in life where we realize we feel alone and no one will get our problems. Or we might look at it the other way and say, wow, look at that person. Must be nice to be that guy. He's got it made or she's got it made in life. You don't realize that that person is no different than you once you start talking to them. And actually, at times, you will realize your life is actually good. Be grateful for what you have today. And, that could literally be eyesight, our ears to listen, our voice to talk. It's the simple things in life. And in a world we live in today, there's so much noise and complexity to it that if we can simplify our life, I think we can find some joy in the little things. And I've been able to do that, especially through COVID, where I decided after many years to get sober.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I I know a few people that have dealt with um, substance abuse and alcohol abuse and that sort of thing, and it's definitely not an easy thing.
No.
And what what allowed you to make that decision to get sober?
Yeah. Hmm. I guess I could say is this is so August 7th, 2019, my mom passed away. She passed away she had just turned 55 years old, brain cancer. And we had months and then she's gone. And mom is the pillar. And I have a younger sister and she's married. And, you just are lost. I think if you have someone you love so much in life, whether it's a partner or a parent or a friend, it takes you by surprise. I mean, it's like a big punch to the gut and a wake up call, I guess, in life. Life is short. But what it did for me is I thought I was good, yet I was spiraling down. I was already down in life. Um, Alcohol was already at a high consumption because it was so socially accepted where it's okay to do. Or he was drunk and, that's not him. He was drunk. But yeah, you know what? it sucks. We're always apologizing, always blacking out and being silly, and mm, it wasn't you. It was a mask of it didn't align with your values as a person, and you were running from something, and I don't know what it was, but I spiraled. And November 25th, 2020, a year and something later, I I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm on the floor and I'm done. I'm like, I gotta stop this. Enough is enough. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but I had to call myself on my own in life, because you can drink a lot and just say, "Oh, that was painful, man. I'm not gonna drink for a couple days or whatever," and then you're out again, and you're out again. And yeah, November 25th was woke up and was done. Never looked back. And this year will be 3 years, which is crazy to think. But you kill your social life during that process. Um, your friends are gone. The people that you thought were gonna be your ride or dies were your stool mates. If you know what I mean, your drinking buddies, which are great people still and very kind, but they were my people in a different dimension. And as I got sober, I started going to online video programs or whatever that was out there, because it was during the pandemic, and was alone at home and just started listening to people and hearing their stories and realizing, holy smokes, I would have ended up like that. Or, oh my God, that was me. I had no idea you had that experience, because I had that experience. And then I realized there are people out there like me. And that's when I realized I wasn't alone. So during the pandemic, January 2021 comes around, and I've been dabbling here and there. Let me try a podcast. No, let me try a podcast. No, because what happens is when you're drinking, you don't really have the courage. There's anxiety. You're not even going deep within yourself. So what is the point of all this? We're just talking to talk. And when it's recorded, that's probably not a good idea either, right? So got sober, got clean. 2021 comes around, and said, we're launching the Canadian podcast. I'm doing it. And I want to talk to people about not just the highs in their life, but what got them there. And it's never just a hockey stick up. It's who you are. It's what you're made of, and what you dealt with in terms of your adversity, the challenges, what life has thrown at you. And I think if I can learn from it, others can learn from it. And that's the power of this community. Being on this podcast of yours, which is amazing that you're just launching this finally, because now this will go somewhere, and that's the beauty here. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Zach. I know, like I haven't lost a parent, but I lost a really good friend to cancer in 2018. He's a bandmate of mine, and that was, I mean, it's not easy
No, sorry
by
for
any
your loss,
means.
brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not
Uh,
easy. It's of course we wish they were here, but what we can do is find ways to honor them. You know,
yeah,
Mom always told me, like, slow down, Zach, when you're drinking or whatever. You just, I don't know, you don't listen, but I just think now she might be looking and saying, okay, well, at least you're on the right path of that. Now you can work on other things of your life. So instead of running away from so much, now you can face things and start checking off boxes, because there's fear, there's anxiety, there's so much that holds us back. Um, there's a Chopra book that I read. Actually, reading it the second time around now. A friend of mine gave it to me, Justin, and it's called The Shadow Effect. And basically, the book is The Shadow Effect, and basically, it's talking about the shadow that we all have, and it follows us. It's that chest, and we often never open it. And all our lives, we're carrying this baggage, and it's getting heavier and heavier. That shadow is getting darker. But guess what? You know what? It makes us bitter. It It affects our relationships. It affects our business relationships. I've been there. So how do I go through it? I wouldn't recommend all the things I did because oftentimes opened up the box a little too quickly. The chest, the metaphor of the chest, and God, that was painful. So I would recommend is do it at your pace. Be fragile. Be gentle with yourself, but move forward. There's that other phrase of, "Oh, I'm just being gentle with myself and just staying stagnant in life." And one day I'll get there. One day I'll get there. Well, is it one day or day one? So,
I like that. One day or day one.
it's up to us, right?
I
Isn't it up to us?
It is. It
Yeah.
really is. And I like what you said about from what you learned from that book about opening up that chest and kind of going at your own pace, but not being afraid to look at it.
Yeah, it's those shadows. It's the things that hold us down. It's trauma. It's pain. It's
Yeah.
the things you haven't made peace with.
And I mean, no one really teaches you about that. It's
No.
not like I don't remember signing up for a class called like Emotions 101 or something like that, right? So when these traumatic points in our life happen, really, unless you either already have an amazing support team or you've had to find it from somewhere or find or learn, I guess, from somewhere. Unless you do that, then a lot of people they don't know what to do. They don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah. And for the longest time, I did not know what to do. And I'm still learning what's right, what's wrong. And I think that's the beauty in life too, is the exploration, the curiosity, the journey of trial and error. You're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna fall, but don't give up. And that's the thing here. You know, I didn't have a support system truly in terms of emotions. I mean, mom was my support system. She was my everything. I mean, some sons can say they go to their moms or talk to them about everything, and that was my mom for me. So now I don't have that. Now where do you go? And you have to build a circle of trust, a safe space for yourself, whatever that may be. You got to find the people that truly want the best for you, because at moments in your life, you don't believe you deserve the best. You don't deserve happiness. You don't deserve any of that. And I think that's where also that imposter syndrome comes in, where there's shame, doubt, which is again goes back to outlets such as substance abuse, alcohol. There's people that have suffered with drug abuse, of course, that we know. And, I realize through everything that I've learned so far is I've seen folks that are no longer here with us because of substance abuse. And it makes you realize that if you are here today, you as a human have a duty to pass on something. It might be an iota of something, but if you can help another person in one way or another, I think there's a beauty in that. So my mom always used to say is, try to make at least one person smile a day. And it's such a little remark, but it goes a long way because smiles are contagious. We see someone frowning or that's always angry and upset. I mean, we don't want to be around that energy. It doesn't bring joy to us. Steve, you're a happy person. That makes me happy, and it's vice versa. If you were a negative person, I don't think we'd be on this podcast together.
Yeah, I agree.
But we've been there, right? We've been there in dark moments. And we have
Yeah.
days, we have moments, we have minutes. But how do we navigate through it? And I'm sure you've found ways for yourself to navigate through things to make you be the person you are today.
Yeah. I experienced a ton of rejection for a large portion of my adult life. And it was just something that was really frustrating because, you're doing the personal development, you're reading books, going to events, and, just trying to become better. And just not knowing you know, why all the rejection, right? And at the end of 2018, I started getting into running, and that started to become that outlet for me. And I, discovered David Goggins and really started pushing into, how far can I go? And I was originally just training for 5K, and then a year later, I'm doing a 50K and
Wow.
60K, and then uh, actually, surprisingly, the same week that you decided to get sober, I ran 100K for Movember to raise money for men's health. And that was really inspired when my grandfather had passed away from dementia the year prior. And it was like, physically, it was the hardest thing
Yeah.
I've ever done, and like the most excruciating pain I've ever been in. But afterwards, that I always thought it was like my inner drive kind of went away, but I've come to realize now that it was that all those inner demons that I used to kind of push further. And then after I did that, I felt I finally could, I guess, love myself or feel worthy, right? And after that, it was just like, yeah, that kind of drive that I thought was a positive thing went away. But really, what it was I just came to term with who I am, and I've been able to, I guess, just grow from there. So
What do you think it was though when you look back at it all? When you say rejection, what was that for you? What was rejection?
I think that the rejection that I faced in, like, when it comes to mainly girls, there was
Yeah.
some, um, I guess, like, professionally, but it was mainly girls. That was the big thing.
Mhm.
Um, but really, looking back on it, it, it was just a reflection of what I thought about myself. They
The
were just,
projections, isn't it?
yeah, they were just saying what I internally thought about myself, whether or not I was consciously aware of it. Never really happened until years later, when you see, like, how far are you willing to go to, like you talked about, that chest. How deep are you willing to go into
Mm.
that chest? There's a lot of people that's the last thing that they ever want to touch, is they throw away the key. They're not opening that chest.
No,
So,
but they're carrying that chest on their back.
yep.
Yeah.
And
When
think about
you
it.
What was your pivotal moment when you switched and said, "You know what? I need to change myself. I need to be a better me for me. I need to start showing up."
I think it wasn't so much that I needed to make a change, or maybe I
Mm.
just didn't really realize the change. It was just that, I guess, anger. Um, that was really what fueled me. And I remember having these these thoughts as I was, out on my runs, and that was like, I could picture this just horrific looking being, and I kind of put a face to what I refer to as my inner demons. And I would just visualize myself, as weird as this might sound, I would visualize the, I guess, more or less inflicting pain on that internal demon, utilizing that to push myself further. If I don't even know if that makes sense, but
No, it totally
it's
does.
just
No, it
like,
does.
so for me, it wasn't so much a um, one of those moments where I was like, I gotta like flip the switch here. But that was it was just, I think I was just so angry and so frustrated with, being disappointed and whatnot, that I just focused all that aggression into running, and then that was really what led to that.
Did you have a bad breakup? Is that kind of what had happened?
I had a breakup like a decade ago.
Oh, but it was just layers on layers of
It
things.
was just layers on top of that. Before that, I had been cheated on, and yeah, it was just like, it's just a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah, no, and that's hard. Sorry to hear that.
Hey guys, we'll get back to the show in just a second, but I wanted to take an opportunity to let you know that if you're a man who is dealing with depression or anxiety or stressed out or even substance abuse, if you're looking to get connected to a community that can help you, that can offer you tips, tricks, and maybe just some inspiring stories to help you on your journey, check out MenTELL.ca. That's MENTELL.ca. The mental health community has been amazing, and I really want to thank Zach for helping organize it. And there's a lot of great things going on there, so be sure to check it out. That's MenTELL.ca. All right, let's get back to the show. One of the things that really, outside of Goggins, I would say the original person that really helped me along with those struggles initially was reading about Terry Fox. I think everyone should really dive into the Terry Fox story, but I'm curious to know what Terry Fox means to you.
I think for me, he means triumph, to push forward, to persevere, no matter your circumstance or what you're going through. Do it for others. Put yourself forward for others. Greater, they're greater than yourself. I mean, Terry did that for so many, and for me, Terry's just, I just can't get over the story how one young man had the courage, despite everything he's going through. I mean, of course, we hear about Terry running and all of this, but Terry was also a boy. He was a person. He had feelings. He had emotions, and of course, the cancer. How did he do this? For me, it sounds impossible. This guy did it also with an amputated leg. Terry had so many reasons to say no. I'm just going to stay at home. I'm just going to do whatever I want to do and be a kid. But Terry took the role of a man, a person with dignity, and left this world with that as well. And that's why he'll always be celebrated. And, this year on September 17th, we have the run here again across Canada. Millions of Canadians will run. And it's the 42nd year. And I just think, all these young boys, we all grew up with Terry Fox. He's a part of us. There's a little bit of Terry in all of us. And I think we can tap into it when we need to and apply some of that in our world. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but it truly could be a better world or a better community at least, you know.
I agree. I
What does
think
Terry mean to you? How about that?
so. I guess to preface this, back in 2017, I believe, there were 3 books that I read like back to back to back, um, in the field of uh, perseverance, I
Oh
guess.
yeah.
And the first one was Terry Fox by Leslie Scrivener, which I have with me today.
Oh
This
wow.
book right here. And much like what you said, when you really stop and think about what he did, that it's impossible. It's impossible. And yet he did it. He found a way, despite everything saying you're not going to do this.
He was running with a lump in his chest, Steve. You know, on Saturday, I mean, you had commented and asked, "Where is the van right now?" And it's currently here in Calgary. It arrived Friday evening, and it's here for 5 months. The amount of time that Terry was able to run for. So I had gone and I literally was there for about an hour and I just standing there, just imagining all of this, looking at the photos down there and then looking back up and saying, oh, wow, Terry was standing here. And I mean, let's just say this van's not a nice coach or a fifth wheel or any of this stuff. The prosthetic leg, if you even think about, that's not what it is that we have today in today's time with the technology and the way that the legs move. I read something where they had said one of Terry's doctors that had helped with the prosthetic leg and said, and again, it happens, of course, after running for so long, your legs will shrink a bit. So now the stump actually would move around and create pus and pain and blood and blisters, and he had to adjust the leg again and again. But Terry would persevere. He didn't stop. He went through it all. Again, you can just say no. That's it. I'm done. And you see the video of when Terry was pretty much forced to say, "You got to stop, Terry," and you can see it in his eyes and his voice, and he truly wanted to finish this. And I think now millions of people are doing it, and then they're working on finishing it for him. And it's a story that I can't get over, including the van. Just staring at the van. How did you move around in this? I mean, the speed of a van back in the day, the comfort of a van back in the day, and it's the 80s. It's not forever ago, but just all of it, plays a part. It brought it to reality for me. Let's just say that.
I can imagine. So, like, I have been to the Terry Fox Memorial near Thunder Bay, and it's
Oh, I'd love to see that.
it's amazing. It's it looks out over Lake Superior, and again, just being there in awe. And when you see, I guess in general, when you see someone persevere through so much struggle, it's inspiring for one. But as you said, like the stump, I remember reading in the book, they talked about how one of the news reporters was saying that he should go to a doctor and whatnot, and he basically looked at them and said, if I went to a doctor every time I was in pain, or every time I had a blood blister or something, I'd still be in Newfoundland. And it was just like, here he is, I think at that point he was in Ontario, and so he had run almost halfway across the country, and you got journalists and people like, why are you doing this? This isn't right. And him saying like, no, I'm not going to stop. I have to do this. And like you said, even when at the end there, he's like going in the ambulance, telling reporters, like he's on a stretcher basically, telling reporters that I'm going to do everything I can to get back out here. Like
And
he
that's the
just would not
video
quit.
that gives me the chills, because that drive, I mean, he knew his true north. He knew his why, and it was greater than him. And I wish more folks can find their why. And I just had Sean Taylor, a Canadian veteran and a friend of mine, on the podcast, and he talks about the why, the true north, the importance of it, sitting down with your thoughts and writing it down. Who are you? Why are you doing this? Why do you exist? I mean, they're the most, I guess, out there questions, but you can really find out who you are, and then actually live your life instead of running away, um, tying yourself to objects, things that don't matter. We came here empty-handed. We're leaving empty-handed. So whatever we got, let's make the most of it. And obviously, do well for yourself. Take care of you first. That's what I've always said is, I can't help anyone if I'm not good. So when I realize that the cup is just pouring out, I gotta stop, and I gotta say no. Putting boundaries in place, learning you, and you know what? At first, I had a hard time with that, boundaries. But once you start realizing who you are and understanding your true north, like Terry, I think you're able to live for a purpose. And I mean, obviously, look, he pushed through, man.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about Terry? Why is he still relevant today? Why does he live in the hearts of millions of people and forever will?
I think it's because he did something that isn't easily uh, duplicatable. Like I think if he wasn't if he still had both of his legs, I think he would still be a prominent figure
Mhm.
just because of his age. But over time, I think more and more people taking on those extreme adventures and whatnot, I think it would kind of lose its uh, kind of lose the meaning a little bit. But the fact that he survived cancer, had his leg amputated, before he before he was out of the hospital, he decided he was going to do this.
Yeah. Raise $1 from
And,
every Canadian. Yeah.
and he still had to learn how to walk first. Like
That's sheer will. That's will.
he had to learn how to walk, learn how to run, and he being out in BC, he would run up the hills, run up the foothills and some mountains and whatnot. And that was really how he trained. Was he learned how to walk, and then he learned how to run, and then he
My goodness.
had to or I guess get the endurance up as well, all while dealing with, like you said, the prosthetics from
Mhm.
the late 70s, shoes that are from the late 70s. He's not getting like, Air Jordans or
No.
anything like that. Like you look at everything, they almost didn't even have a van. And he was just so stubborn and had, like you said, his true north, had that frame of mind, like nothing is going to stop me because of what he saw in the cancer ward. It was horrific. It was like being in a horror movie, listening to the screams and everything. And he vowed that no one was going to suffer anymore because he was going to go on this campaign and basically sacrifice himself
That's what he did.
for
The
others.
modern day sacrifice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, yeah. So I don't think that you can ever diminish it, because it's just the impossibilities around it is just, it's insane.
Oh yeah. And what I admired also about Terry was not for sale. And what that means is he was not interested in being plastered with logos of banks and brands. If you wanted to donate, please donate. But I don't need the fanciest stuff. I'm doing me.
You know, if you're looking for an amazing book to read on resilience, definitely check out Terry Fox, His Story by Leslie Scrivener. That book changed my world, and definitely check it out. Like, I can't say enough for him. Terry Fox, His Story. But I don't want to keep you too long. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the Canadian podcast, give a little bit more details for the listeners.
Sure. The Canadian podcast is about learning from one another, the ups and downs of life. It is the stories that make us who we are today. So it's about the journey, not the destination. So how did you become you? What are the adversities you faced? What are the ups and downs? Because we all have them. And Instagram at times can be a highlight reel of just the good. You can see a beautiful photo, but who are you? So tell us about yourself. So it's been amazing to learn from people firsthand about life. I mean, you can't put this stuff in a classroom and learn it. You have to experience it. You have to put yourself out there and talk to people. Of course, at times, it's uncomfortable, but after a while, it gets easier. And I'm so happy you're doing this too now, because it's about connecting. We're so connected, yet we're disconnected in this era we live in. A like is not an interaction. This is.
It's so true.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, because like what episode are you on now?
You know what? We are not that high yet. We're 200 or almost 200 now. Yeah. So still not.
That seems
Yeah.
like a lot to this
It does. I was like, only 200?
Only like 2/3 of an entire year.
Yeah. But it's how can I describe it? It's fulfilling. It fills my heart. And gosh, the peace it brings to have different perspectives and an outlook on life. And you have folks, again, like you said, from the NHL, and artists and musicians, and then veterans and law enforcement, and you see how they're able to navigate through certain adversities. Or say a musician, I'm fascinated by how do you get up on stage and not stall or freak out. That's amazing to me. Or veterans and snipers, and how do you stay still for so long? you, there's magic to be learned from one another, and you can apply it in your life or your bubble. And I do that often. And I'll might not be sitting still for that long, but maybe I can sit still for 2 minutes, not do anything, truly calm the mind, and apply it. And it's neat. It's neat. Perspectives on life too.
Absolutely. What can you think of one or two of those lessons that because obviously there's a lot that you've
Mm-hmm.
gained from interviewing so many people. Was there ever a time where you heard like a tip or a trick or something like that, or maybe it was just a perspective
Yeah,
and it just kind of blew your mind,
for sure.
where you're like, I never thought of it like that, or something like
You
that?
know, what I realized was didn't matter who it was, show up as you. You will be surprised that you don't have to wear the mask anymore. Take it off. Be you. Be genuinely you. The quirks, the nerdy things you love, the all of it. That's what makes us unique and are able to celebrate those things because of these uniquenesses that we all have, these individual characteristics. So taking off the mask was one of them. And we can all show up, and I've been there too. Pretend I'm somebody I'm not, or let the ego control us. But once you push it down, I don't think you can completely kill an ego, but I think you can push it down to a certain level. There's peace in that, man. And vulnerability, showing up with vulnerability, authenticity, and just being a good human being all around. And I saw it within everyone. And it's been such a nice reassurance to life that there is hope. There is peace in people. There is joy in community. And you can talk to strangers and really feel like they could become family.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been great.
I feel like I'm sitting down with like a Buddhist monk right now. You just have such a calm presence about you, and you're just,
Thanks.
you talk about essentially wherever you are, be there, like be present in the moment,
Mhm.
and take that time to just sit down and be still and just exist. And it's so important to, just like you said, take that time. It's something that, we were talking a little bit beforehand, how, a year ago, I walked away from my job, and I was at a breaking point where if if I stayed, I felt like something bad was going to happen to me health wise or whatever. And after I left, one of the things that I did was, well, my girlfriend and I did it, was we did a month straight of cold plunges going into Georgian Bay until that iced over. And then we had a horse trough that we did for like into December, and that'll teach you to
Oh, yes.
focus and calm the mind. And
And
that's
even when you
really,
don't want to do it, getting in there. Oh
yeah,
my. Yeah.
pushing past that. So yeah, the sitting down and just being still after 2 years of chaos was something that
Mhm.
was unheard of for me.
Yeah.
So that right there might be the biggest lesson, that if if someone just takes that away in such a noisy, busy world, that would be the thing that I would point out,
Mhm.
is just sit down and be still for a moment.
And you know what? It's how do I say this? There's so much noise, small conversations, draining conversations sometimes. And if you can find a way to hone in and know your limit. I used to push limits, and I still push limits in different ways now. When I know I can't serve, or I know I just don't have it within me, I'm not afraid to let people know that now. I, I'm just, hey guys, I gotta let you do with this because I don't have it within me right now. Maybe down the line, but the bandwidth is not there. And surprisingly enough, everyone gets it. And that's where you're right. You're on the right path. You make better decisions, and ultimately you're at peace because we've seen chaos. We know what chaos was. Maybe it's in the workforce. Maybe it's just health, life, just stress. I should think I enjoy the chaos, but there's healthy chaos now, if you know what I mean. Challenges, purposes, aiming to achieve something for humanity or achieve something that's for the good rather than chaos and being hammered and blacked out and saying things you didn't mean and doing things and for what? Apologizing and that, I just think, why did I put my body, mind, and all of that through all that chaos? And I'm so happy I'm not there anymore. It's a but it's a fine line. You gotta be careful because that's sometimes the ego. It could tell you, yeah, you're good. Tip over. You can have one drink. You can do this. That's all it takes is that split second to feel convinced. Thankfully, I haven't tipped over, but again, I've seen folks do it and they've told me some of their breaking points. So it gives me the ability to foresee that, hey, this is possible because other things they've done have happened to me and mistakes and the trials and tribulations. So heads up, Zach, be careful.
I'm a firm believer in the fact that sometimes we go through things that aren't even for us, but we had to go through it and experience it so that we could help someone else.
Mhm.
And I think this, what you just said really attests to that. And especially in, the world of recovery is just having those people who are continued on that path of sobriety to just say, like, to look out for each other and provide that kind of guidance and support of,
Mhm.
like, you can do this too. I
Yeah.
think it's amazing.
It is amazing. And I think, finding the right people though, that's the other thing. You got to siphon out the noise as well. If it's someone that's, the word we use these days, triggering you or is putting you down or is a negative Nelly or a bossy person, you don't need that. Just get it rid of it.
Mhm.
There's so many folks that will find their way within you, but you got to be open to it. You got to open doors, knock on them. Some may not open, but that's okay. You know, Starting the podcast was and is therapeutic for me. It was learning real life through people. It was not just, like I said, learning it in a classroom. I was learning it firsthand. And I was like, holy smokes, this is, it's a great hobby. I got to say that because it's been a blessing in my life to talk to people, including yourself, and being on this podcast because the mind, that's something that can trick us, can't it? You really have to
Absolutely.
be paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to become aware of that if you don't put yourself out there and you know try things that scare you and kind of push your own limits, your own boundaries. And
Last May, it was May 2020, last May or the May before, I can't remember. Not 2023 though. And I started looking into men's mental health because for me, I was realizing that, hey, this whole time I was alone, but I wasn't alone. You just had to find people. And it worked for me to find people to learn from and help. Might not work for everyone, but it worked for me. And I thought, okay, let's start this. Let's do it. I just didn't have the courage within me. I was doubt. Well, what am I doing? Well, it shouldn't be me. It should be a therapist. It shouldn't be me. Looking back, I should have started it 2 years ago or whatever year gonna let something go. Because how many of us have come together because of it? Talking. We're talking today because of it. You went out there and talked about your favorite activity, quote, or a mantra. And I thought, during that time, we all have a story. We all have the downs. But let's celebrate what's worked for each one of us individually because that's how we empower each other. Of course, people can have breakout rooms or talk individually about their struggles, but I don't think it obviously needs to be broadcasted, especially in a public domain where maybe it's not safe. Find the person, but here is a group of folks that are all talking, and get it. You're not alone. And the commonality was remarkable. Get outside, do something, but be outside. And there's been times where, I didn't want to leave my room. I didn't want to get out of bed in a dark room. Don't want to talk to anybody. Don't want to do anything. Isolation. And when I start feeling that some days, I know there's something wrong. And what has helped me is to literally go for that walk. I'm not doing anything intense out there. Literally, the walk helps me. That breeze, that smell. Life, man. Life is it's all up here, but it can play games with us. And to know that we're not alone. And obviously there's that stigma, man, keeping it within. I had said earlier that I would push boundaries and I would say yes a lot. And I couldn't deliver ever. I'd overwhelm myself. But saying no, finding you and understanding that people get it. You can say no. You're good. It's been therapeutic to understand that as well. But I learned that through MenTELL, the initiative.
That's amazing.
Thanks.
It's such a good movement. And I remember hearing you speak up on this in a previous podcast where when you look at some of the efforts that are done today, one of the things that you brought up was a certain day of the year where everyone just shares something, and it's trying to spread awareness and creating a conversation without actually speaking to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about the Bell Let's Talk Day.
Yeah.
And I thought the thought process that you had, just thinking about that concept, and you were like, how do we actually engage that conversation and create that conversation? Actually, for one, have a conversation, because what that isn't a conversation. And I think the ability to bring that to life, you've been able to witness just the kind of effect
We all
that,
have. I mean, if I had to put it on you, have you been able to witness some sort of an interaction or engagement? Of course, we don't have the impact of Bell Let's Talk, but this is at the grassroots of humans being humans. And I think that's a beautiful place to be. This is not a trend where, oh, it's Bell Let's Talk Day, so let's post something today.
yeah,
No, you got to put your foot forward that one step if you can. If not, that's okay. Maybe next year, maybe next time. But at least you can listen to folks that maybe resonate with you, that are real human beings, not just a post or a beautiful stock image of people smiling or holding a phone or whatever. It's real people.
yeah,
And that goes back to branding. That goes back to marketing. That goes back to what I've always said is, humanization of brands. Brands need to relate to each other. I saw I actually had reposted something today. I won't mention it. I'll tell you after, but I posted something today out there, and it's a beautiful cinematic video on Canadian Podcast. And I was like, wow, great work. But is that really impactful? I'm not listening to the whole thing. I'm not going to watch that whole, it's like a trailer. Why don't you take that budget, break it in a bit, give it to each individual that's a part of this video, and let them talk. Take you on a journey on social media, a day ride or whatever it is, and learn about who they are rather than just a quick, nice video, because that doesn't work in today's time. Short form content works. Knowing your audience, who are you attracting? Who are you targeting? How many people see a commercial on TV now and just grab their phone and start scrolling?
yep.
Right? So times have changed.
Zach, I really appreciate you coming on this podcast.
Thank you.
I got one more quick question for you, and then I'll let you go because I know you're a busy guy. Do you have any book recommendations for the audience? And it doesn't have to be genre specific. And it can be one, it could be three.
When I was younger, my mom put me in a course that helped me in life, and it was called Dale Carnegie. So there was a course, a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it helped me in terms of public speaking, getting out there. Of course, I'm still nervous at times, but the ability to articulate some of your thoughts and work through them with people and understand that you're talking with people, not at people. So the conversation needs to flow. It's not, Steve, you need to do this, and Steve, this is the way it's got to be done. No, it's, what do you think we should do here, Steve?
Yeah,
It's up to us. Now that conversation's open.
yeah. It's similar to being on stage with a band. Like you kind of feel the audience, right? And if you have, say, 10 songs in your lineup and you know the crowd's really hot coming off one song and the next one's might slow them down a little bit, just skip it.
Yeah.
There's no rule that says you have to play that song. It's just this nice dance between you and the crowd.
And do you think that's the same thing in life? There's no rules.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of like, you meet some people that are kind of set in their ways, right?
Yes,
But if you can, especially with that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, if you can learn how to interact without, I guess, giving away your power, then it's, again, this fine dance of like human connection and interaction. It's just like you being cognizant of another person and what they're excited about, what they're not excited about, how they're feeling, just being aware of it. And I guess,
you know where that comes from, Steve, is because we know what pain felt like and we know what love feels like. And, there's that choice of ours when you're awake. I don't know, woke. I don't know if that's the right term these days, because that could be
aware, I think.
Aware. There we go. You got to be
Conscious.
aware. Yeah, conscious. And you got to be aware of these things and realize that, you know what? We've seen both sides. Now it's up to us. Do we want to put hate out in the world? During the pandemic, we saw so much of that anger. Fair enough. But there was also that time that you had to go within yourself, figure out who you are. What do you want? And that's an ongoing journey, but at least it's a start. That was a window to look within. I call it a beautiful window for myself because I couldn't control the outside world, but I could control what's in this four walls. And we all have that every day.
Very true.
Thank you again for this, bro.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me here.
My pleasure.
Zach from the Canadian podcast and big force behind MenTELL Health. And I highly recommend checking out the podcast and going to the MenTELL.ca website and just seeing what's going on and be part of that community or see if it resonates with you, right?
If it's your vibe. If not, there are communities out there. We're just one sliver of it all. When you make it out here out west, make sure you give me a call, though. I'd love to meet up with you guys.
Absolutely. I definitely want to meet you in person, shake your hand.
Thank you, Steve.
You're a wonderful human being. Zach, thank you for being on the podcast. And I'm going to do this. Thank you, everyone, for joining me on another episode of the PromoMinds podcast. I'm your host, Steve Leslie. And until next time, take care. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the PromoMinds podcast interview series. For this one, I wanted to do something special. Something that I didn't fully realize at the time while I was sitting down with Zach was just how much depth was behind his words. And after going through this, doing the editing, I thought it was only fair to share a few tidbits that I've taken away since our conversation. And the first one would be his poise and calmness behind every word. He's present in the moment, and we talked about that a little bit during the conversation. But just his character overall, to embrace people and to accept people and to allow them to share their voice is amazing. You can tell throughout the conversation just how amazing he is as an interviewer and as a conversationalist. And I feel like if I didn't take a second to again recommend checking out his podcast, which is called Canadian Podcast, it would definitely be doing a disservice to him. So Zach, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, dealing with some of the technical difficulties that we had during this. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to not only meeting you in person, but to having more engaging conversations like this one along the way. Thank you again, and everybody out there, until next time, take care.